After a long separation, the narcissist thoughts about you don't disappear the way they like you to believe. On the surface, they may act indifferent, as though you were just another chapter they easily closed. But beneath the mask, their mind keeps circling back to you. They think about how you slipped out of their control, how you managed to stand tall despite their attempts to break you, and that thought gnaws at them endlessly. Secretly, they wonder how you're doing now. Not because they care about your well-being in a healthy sense, but because they want to know if you're still wounded or if you've healed. They crave confirmation that their absence left you broken. Yet when signs appear that you've moved forward, whether through silence, joy, or resilience, they feel a sting of defeat. That pain grows each time they realize you're thriving. The narcissist also thinks about their lost influence. They used to hold the power to upset you with just a look, a word, or a silence. Now, after the separation, they wonder if you still think of them at all. This uncertainty torments them. Their ego whispers, "You still belong to me," but reality challenges that illusion. They secretly fear you've finally erased them from your mind. Jealousy creeps into their thoughts as well. They picture you surrounded by new people, healthier relationships, or simply enjoying your freedom. Even if they don't know the truth, their imagination fills the gaps. To them, the idea of you being happy without them is unbearable. They secretly think you don't deserve that happiness, yet deep down, they know you earned it by walking away. One of the darkest thoughts they have is regret. Not regret for the pain they caused, but regret for losing control. They replay moments when you defended them, comforted them, or forgave them. They realize those moments are gone, and their mind twists with the thought that they wasted their strongest source of supply. This regret fuels bitterness, making them obsess even more. They also think about testing your boundaries again. In their mind, they wonder, if I reached out, would they answer? Would they let me back in? These thoughts don't always lead to action, but they circle their mind like vultures. The possibility of regaining control excites them, yet the fear of rejection keeps them from trying. That internal battle is constant torment. The narcissist's thoughts about you are filled with contradiction. Part of them misses the comfort of your presence, while another part resents you for leaving. They can decide if they want to pull you close again, or punish you for your strength. This contradiction is exhausting for them, but it is the natural consequence of living with a fractured ego that craves control above all else. After a long separation, they secretly think about how you managed to break free. Narcissists convince themselves they are irresistible, that no one can live without them. Your ability to walk away challenges that illusion directly. They secretly wonder what gave you the strength, and this thought keeps them awake at night. It bruises their pride more than anything else. Another thought that plagues them is comparison. They look at people around them, friends, partners, admirers, and compare them to you. No matter how much they brag about moving on, they secretly think no one measures up. They miss the depth of attention you gave, the patience you showed, and the way you believed in them. But they will never admit that out loud. They also think about revenge. In their mind, they imagine ways to prove they are better off without you. They fantasize about showing you how happy they are, how much they've improved. But these thoughts are hollow, because the act of trying to prove something means they still care deeply about what you think. Their obsession betrays the very image of indifference they project. Deep inside, the narcissist secretly thinks you will never truly forget them. They believe their presence in your life left a permanent mark, one you cannot erase. This thought comforts them when loneliness strikes, but it is also their greatest fear. Because if you can erase them, if you can move forward without even a trace of them in your heart, it means their influence was never as strong as they imagined. They also think about the image they project versus the reality they live. Outwardly, they may flaunt new relationships, achievements, or a happy lifestyle, but privately, they wonder if you can see through the facade. They think about whether you laugh at their performance, or whether you've stopped paying attention entirely. Both possibilities wound them, because they want your attention, even from afar. After a long separation, they secretly think about rewriting history. In their mind, they edit past events to make themselves appear as the victim, while painting you as the one who abandoned them unjustly. They tell themselves this story repeatedly to soothe their ego, but deep down, they know it's not true. That tension between their fantasy and reality keeps gnawing at them. The narcissist secretly wonders if you still remember the good times. They replay moments of laughter, intimacy, and connection, hoping those memories haunt you the way they haunt them. They think if those moments still hold power in your mind, then perhaps they haven't lost completely. But this hope is fragile because the silence between you now is louder than any memory. They also think about punishment. In their private thoughts, they imagine you should be suffering for leaving them. They think life should teach you a lesson, that you should regret ever walking away. Yet when they see glimpses of your growth and happiness, they suffer instead. The reversal of roles, where you rise and they sink, is unbearable, yet it plays in their mind daily. Another secret thought is curiosity. They wonder what your days look like now, who you talk to, and how you spend your time. They may scroll through social media or ask mutual friends, pretending not to care while secretly craving information. This curiosity is not love, it is control in disguise. They want to measure how much influence they still hold over your life. The narcissist secretly thinks you owe them something. Even after all the lies and harm, they feel entitled to your energy, your forgiveness, or your attention. This entitlement fuels their resentment. When they realize you've given them nothing, not your words, not your time, not your presence, they feel robbed. This belief that you owe them makes your silence a constant punishment. After a long separation, they also think about what could have been. Not in the way healthy people reflect, but in a distorted way that centers their ego. They think, if only you had stayed, I could have kept control. They never think about how they might have changed or treated you better. Instead, they twist the narrative so that your leaving becomes the tragedy. They secretly think about the possibility of returning. They fantasize that someday they might reach out and you'll respond. This thought soothes them when they feel lonely. But beneath it lies fear, that if they try, you'll ignore them. That possibility of rejection holds them back, leaving them in limbo. They suffer because they crave control, but fear losing the little illusion of it they still have. The narcissist also thinks about your strength. They wonder how you found the courage to walk away and stay away. In their mind, they assumed you would always be available, always forgiving. But your separation proves otherwise. They secretly admire and resent that strength at the same time. It fascinates and enrages them because your power is something they can never truly possess. They secretly think about whether you still talk about them. Narcissists crave being the center of attention, even long after a relationship ends. They imagine your friends asking about them or your family recalling their name. In their mind, as long as people mention them, they still matter. But when silence surrounds their name and life moves on without reference, the realization cuts deep. The narcissist also thinks about how unfair life feels now. They convince themselves that they gave you everything, even though much of it was manipulation. In their secret thoughts, they see themselves as the victim, the one who was misunderstood. This distorted thinking comforts them for a moment, but it doesn't erase the pain of separation. Reality still haunts them when the mask slips. They secretly think you betrayed them by healing. To the narcissist, your happiness without them is an insult. They believe you should still be broken, crying, or longing for them. Instead, your growth proves that their control is gone. This betrayal, in their mind, is worse than anything. They suffer deeply, not because you hurt them, but because you stopped needing them. Jealousy continues to poison their thoughts. They wonder if someone new has taken their place, giving you the love and respect they never offered. They picture you smiling with another person, and that image is unbearable. Even if they have moved on themselves, they secretly think no one else should ever have you. That possessiveness fuels their ongoing suffering in silence. They also think about whether you'll ever forgive them. Not because they seek true reconciliation, but because forgiveness would soothe their ego. They imagine you telling them, I don't hate you, or I understand you. This fantasy eases their guilt momentarily. But when forgiveness never comes and silence remains, they spiral, Their suffering grows because they crave validation they will never receive. The narcissist secretly thinks about your silence every single day. It haunts them like a shadow they cannot shake. They replay the unanswered messages, the unreturned calls, and the boundaries you created. In their twisted way, they even admire the power of silence, but it terrifies them too. It reminds them of their greatest loss, the ability to control how you respond. They secretly think you should eventually come back. In their mind, they believe everyone returns to them. This thought soothes their fragile ego, but deep down, they sense it's not true. The longer the separation lasts, the more cracks form in that illusion. They realize, with growing dread, that you might be gone forever. That possibility intensifies their private suffering. They also think about your independence. Seeing you live without them is the ultimate insult to their pride. They believed you couldn't function, that you needed their presence to survive. Your separation proves the opposite. You thrive without them. This reversal shakes their identity, making them secretly think, if they didn't need me, maybe I was never important at all. After a long separation, they secretly think about exposure. They fear you might tell others the truth about who they are and what they did. Even if you never speak a word, the fear lingers. Their paranoia convinces them that everyone can see their mask slipping. This constant fear of exposure keeps them anxious, proving that your silence is louder than any accusation. Most of all, they secretly think about losing. Narcissists cannot tolerate the idea of being defeated. Yet your silence, your growth, and your absence all prove they lost. They didn't just lose you, they lost control, admiration, and the illusion of superiority. That truth torments them endlessly. In their private thoughts, they know the separation was their collapse, and you were the reason. They secretly think about your silence as the ultimate weapon. To the narcissist, silence is worse than anger, worse than insults, because it leaves them with nothing to manipulate. They can't twist your words if you don't give them any. They can't provoke you if you don't engage. That realization burns into their mind, making them replay the emptiness over and over. The narcissist also secretly thinks about rewriting your memory. They imagine that, when you remember them, you'll think of the best moments and forget the cruelty. This fantasy soothes their fragile ego. Yet deep down, they fear the opposite is true, that when you think of them, you only recall the pain, lies, and betrayals. That fear eats away at their pride. After a long separation, they secretly think about how different you seem. If they see you from afar or through social media, they notice your glow, your peace, your confidence. They think, this isn't the same person I knew. That thought terrifies them because it proves you outgrew them. The person they tried to keep small has transformed into someone untouchable. They secretly think you might still miss them. This thought gives them comfort, even though it's built on delusion. They imagine you lying awake at night, replaying old memories, longing for their presence. But the silence you've maintained tells another story. The longer you remain silent, the more doubt creeps into their mind, and the comfort of that fantasy begins to collapse. The narcissist also secretly thinks about revenge in subtle ways. They may fantasize about showing you how successful they are now, or about flaunting new relationships, but these thoughts are hollow because deep inside, they know it's not real. They are not motivated by true growth or happiness, but by a desperate need to make you jealous. That desperation reveals their suffering. They secretly think about whether you hate them. To the narcissist, hate still means attention, still means power. But your silence gives them no confirmation. That void forces them to wonder, do you hate them? Or have you simply moved on? The second option terrifies them more than anything, because it proves they no longer matter. Irrelevance is their greatest fear. After separation, the narcissist secretly thinks about the mistakes they made. They replay moments where they could have been kinder, more supportive, or less cruel. But instead of genuine remorse, these thoughts are fueled by regret of losing control. They don't think, I hurt them. They think, I lost them. The focus remains on themselves, but the suffering remains just as real. They secretly think about testing you one more time, maybe sending a casual message, maybe liking a photo or creating a fake account. The thought of reaching out consumes them, but the fear of your silence stopping them again is paralyzing. This inner battle leaves them restless. They suffer because they want to test your boundaries, but dread the pain of rejection. They also secretly think about the contrast between your life and theirs. They may see you growing, building, thriving, while they feel stuck in the same cycles. That contrast is painful. It reminds them that separation was a turning point. You moved forward, they stayed behind. They suffer knowing your silence has become your freedom, while theirs has become a prison. Most hauntingly, the narcissist secretly thinks you no longer care. This thought terrifies them, because caring, even through anger, meant they still had power. But indifference strips them of everything. They realize your silence doesn't come from hatred, but from strength. And that strength is untouchable. This thought lingers in their mind daily, fueling suffering they can't admit to anyone else. The narcissist secretly thinks about how unfair the outcome feels. In their twisted logic, they believe they gave you everything while you gave nothing. They convince themselves that you were ungrateful, that you left without reason. Yet deep down, they know this isn't true. That hidden awareness makes their suffering worse because it forces them to live with contradictions they can't reconcile. They secretly think about what it would take to pull you back. Would a dramatic apology work? Would pretending to have changed convince you? These thoughts run circles in their mind, but the fear of rejection stops them from trying. They know your silence is strong, and the idea that you could ignore them again terrifies them. This thought keeps them restless at night. Another secret thought is comparison. They measure themselves against the person you've become. Your growth highlights their stagnation, your peace highlights their chaos, and your strength highlights their weakness. Each comparison cuts into their pride. They suffer because separation exposed the truth. You are better without them, and they are smaller without you. That truth haunts them constantly. They secretly think about exposure. They worry that someday you might tell the full story of what they did, and that others will believe you. Even if you remain silent, the fear never leaves their mind. They know the mask is fragile, and they suspect people are already questioning it. This paranoia keeps them trapped in anxiety, proving silence is more powerful than words. The narcissist secretly thinks about the control they once held. They replay moments where a word, a glance, or even silence from them kept you hooked. Those memories bring temporary comfort, but quickly turn bitter. Because now, those same tactics no longer work. They suffer realizing that what once gave them power is useless against the boundary of your silence. They also secretly think about time. They wonder how long it will take before you reach out, before you break the silence. At first, they may have been confident you'd return, but as weeks turn into months and months into years, doubt grows. The silence stretches endlessly, and each day without contact deepens their suffering, proving that maybe you never will. The narcissist secretly thinks about punishment from life itself. Even if they don't believe in karma, they fear it. They wonder if losing you was the start of their downfall, if more losses are waiting. These thoughts weigh on them heavily, because in their heart they know they pushed too far. That fear of ongoing consequences makes their suffering stretch into the future. They secretly think about whether you remember them at all. The idea that you could forget them completely is unbearable. They'd rather you hate them than erase them, because at least hatred proves importance. Silence, however, hints at indifference. And indifference is their greatest nightmare. They suffer knowing they may exist now only as a faint memory in your story. They also secretly think about their own emptiness. Without you to absorb, defend, or explain, they are left alone with themselves. And what they find there is not strength, but hollowness. They suffer because they depended on you to give meaning to their life. Now, after separation, they are forced to face the truth. You were the one with real strength all along. In the end, what the narcissist secretly thinks about you after a long separation is a mixture of longing, jealousy, fear, and regret. They won't admit it, but your silence broke them. They suffer because your absence exposed their weakness, and your strength highlighted their fragility. And while they remain trapped in obsession, you've already moved forward. proving their greatest fear true. You've won.